Coming up next, witness the latest infantile bickering between Tim the Enchanter and his beleaguered showrunner sidekick Stevie on Scary as Hell Theater.
Hey, Ghoul Joe Pal Slash, and this thing, my eight-legged web-headed friend, Dewey. Anyways, you are watching Scary as Hell Theater. You are watching Tim the Enchanter right here on the Monster Channel. It's one hell of a time.
Tonight's Scary as Hell Theater presentation is brought to you in part by the good folks at the Monster Channel, where the Monster Kid, fun and frivolity, never sleeps. And also by Stinky Joe's Barbecue Truck. If you want a meal to taste just as great coming back up as it did going down, remember old Stinky, parked on the furthest outskirts of town. Just look for the toxic smoke plume. That'll be him. Ghoul Beach's own Stinky Joe. Good evening, and welcome, one and all, to what promises to be an exceedingly hair-raising installment of our show, which comes to you as being anything but live from the drop-dead dreary capital of the region, Ghoul Beach, Oregon. This episode is going to be pretty damn hairy. Just so you know, it's hairy, so be wary. You've been duly warned.
Make a note of that, Gardy.
Therefore, I don't want to hear any whining, not even the slightest whimper. Do you hear me? Because I'll pull this car over and throttle the lot of you if I have to. You can just spare me all of your complaining.
Oh, Timmy, you didn't tell us how frightful your hairy program was going to be.
Well, you can just belay all of that stuff and nonsense, all right? Are you about finished now? Can we get on with things here, if you don't mind? We have quite a lot on our respective plates this evening. Oh, by all means, don't let me, of all people, slow your roll, Mr. Underling. Gothling. It's Gothling. I know that you know it, too, because the name appears on all of your blasted paychecks. Do you seriously call those measly scraps of paper pay? Ha! Well, whatever you like to be called, I most assuredly do not. As a matter of fact, I take profound exception with the meager amount of currency you see fit to part with on my esteemed behalf.
Strange boy, Hans. He often plays until late in the night.
In light of all my exhausting toils, operating, as I must, in the armpit of the Pacific Northwest, with all of the sheer intensity and macabre intellect which I regularly bring to the table, to say nothing of the highly taxing expenditures of sorcerer's capital and magic-making mojo necessary to wield my poor beleaguered wand. Magic doesn't make itself, you know. But never let the big-named host be adequately compensated. No, no. Perish the thought. In the immortal words of our resident dean of horror host streaming culture, Mr. Halloween Jack,
nobody gets rich in this business. That's right, boils and ghouls. Take it from your old pal, Handsome Halloween Jack. And I ought to know, too, because that's precisely what every randomly selected fortune cookie I've ever gotten has stated. So yeah, it's gotta be true, right? No buts about it. Plus, I can assure you it's taken a lot more than mere chump change just to keep the haunted theater in its continual state of charmingly macabre disrepair. Talk about residing in a money pit. Therefore, no truer words were ever spoken. You knew the job was dangerous when you took it, Fred. Stevie. Or whoever. Now make like a tree and get lost, will you?
Bow wow. Woof woof. Bow wow 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 wow. Nobody gets rich in this business. Not in the traditional money sense, anyhow. But we are all rich, Tim. All of us. In ways of friendship and in sharing these happy events amid the seemingly endless tribulations of a troubled world. Don't go all Oprah on me. You won't soften my disposition with any such no-account drivel. Save it for the soup kitchen speech, Edith Keeler. The fact is, I can't wine and dine the ladies or bet on the ponies with any mere evocation of kind hearts and coronets. Enchanter, you're a poor creature. Sticks and stones, old boy. In any case, let me presume to take on your job by saying that we ought to move on, because little shall be settled by these feeble means. Tonight, my little thrill-seekers, we have... Yes, it's hairy, so be wary. Where did you get that? I certainly didn't write it for you. There are times, you bothersome little gnat, to my eternal flame, when the talent simply has to riff in order to up our game. But please, don't go falling all over yourself to thank me. As if. All right, fine. We'll move on. First up, we have something of a curious but relevant offering. It's a make-believe 9th cinematic teaming of the greatest of all classic horror icons, Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, in what functions as a foreshadowing of the vintage monkey business dynamics in our main feature. This short film is entitled Let's Go Ape, in which Boris and Bela are each cast as mad scientists on a perilous quest for a particular elusive potion, which acts as a cure for certain maladies. You know, you could always go and work part-time at composing vague TV Guide program descriptions. Very well. Grab a hold of your bananas, folks. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. But whatever you do, don't dilly-dally with the deadly black tarantula. Hey, it's strictly a killer ape thing going on here, Buster. There are no venomous spiders in tonight's show. I just love making a liar out of that insufferable schmuck. Don't you, Iris? Yes, I know. However, try not to judge all of mankind by his woeful example. Remind me to stock up on bug spray the next time I venture out to the grocery store. If I were you, I would not be so cavalier in dismissing the importance of my much adored arachnid associate. After all, spiders harbor a genuine genius for complex calculus and stratagems. As it happens, Iris is the one who originally discovered that when you play the classic David Bowie song, Time, backwards, it actually spells out the elusive method for transecting and maneuvering through time, across ever-sprawling layers of the multiverse. She's frightfully clever. Yep. Bug spray. Got it. Everyone is waiting. All right, all right. Hold your heavy horses, locomotive breath. I'll get to it. Roll film.
Stop shaking, Agda. I will hurt you.
Oh, you poor boy.
I must have human spinal fluid injected into me. It's my only chance. Sandra and I both agreed to it. It's the only way to counteract the ape fluid injection. But she won't do it.
Jane! Look, I've succeeded. It's there. Life in that tiny bottle. It's working.
Son of a
Just go.
Dark.
right, boy. Take that off of him.
Ah! See there, kiddies? Once again, the bad people, they die. And the good people, they live. Mostly. Well, I'll admit that Lugosi and his pet gorilla went way overboard with that grotesquely unethical killing spree. And leave it to Karloff to skin a ginormous, hairy ape, merely to exact some unnamed revenge upon poor Bela. However, it seems to me that inevitably they both met much the same fate, did they not? This might be the perfect opportunity to pause for a bit and pay tribute to both of these beloved boogeymen. They definitely played a major part in my formative years as a dyed-in-the-wool monster kid. Personally, I think that this was pretty consistent with the general theme, which for the most part runs through so many of Karloff's horror film portrayals. You mean when he mysteriously stepped from the inky shadows and somberly turned to the camera and said, "As sure as my name is you-know-who, this is a thriller." I've always wanted to do that. No, not exactly. If I might continue, I suspect that it's a comparatively rare thing to single out those parts in movies where he played a thoroughly unredeemable person, as in The Black Cat, The Body Snatcher, Bedlam, or Frankenstein 1970. By and large, his characters frequently harbored qualities of basic humanitarianism and other sympathetic traits, even if his actions were misguided or hurtful to some of those in the supporting cast. The rabble, you mean? The uncouth extras in the storyline? The constituents of the requisite body count in any such terror tale?
Scary as Hell Theater sincerely regrets the host's unfortunate use of the word rabble to describe what has come to be celebrated as a truly vital human element within the genre of horror cinema. Please take care to direct any written complaints, rotten-smelling parcels, or gypsy curses to the host and not to the showrunner. Thank you.
For that matter, where would any of us be without a seemingly endless supply of hapless victims in horror films? Would we, by default, end up becoming sheeple and mindlessly begin to watch Dead Can Dance with the Stars? Now that's what I call horror. After years of playing heavies in early cinema, I believe that Karloff's legendary work in James Whale's Frankenstein recast his image into someone whom the audience wanted to identify with and feel compassionate towards. Another kind of typecasting, if you will. And he embraced it. It was quite clear that he frequently tried to infuse those characteristics into his roles, whether or not they were formally scripted that way. Are you still awake out there? Next on Geeks Who Can't Get a Date, we'll deconstruct the complex relationship between King Kong and Godzilla. And heaven help all of you when that comes to pass. Bela had many strengths, as an actor. Early on, he seemed rather overly infatuated with his conspicuous power to seduce stage and screen beauties before the fawning eyes of his female fan base. The guy seemed like a walking, talking romance novel hero, Rudolph Valentino on steroids, and he was uncannily effective at delivering the goods. Hey, never mind that blowhard, folks. Let him snooze while we start our main feature. It's from 1932, and it's entitled The Monster Walks. It has recognizable plot elements from other genre entries. Everything from The Cat and the Canary to The Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters. Seriously, it's a film which we, hope that you'll enjoy. In the meantime, I think I'll quietly abscond with Tim's wand and see if it's got a hypersonic wedgie setting on it. That'll teach him to go nodding off during work.
Hi, I'm Brinke Stevens, and you're watching Scary as Hell Theater on the Monster Channel.
Peek-a-boo.
His death was very sudden, Mrs. Krug.
Yes, sir. He was alive last night when I brought him his supper. This morning, Hans found his body.
Your son?
Yes, sir. It's Yogi, Mr. Earlton's ape.
But I thought he had disposed of him.
No, sir.
Do you mean to say that that animal is in this house?
Yes, sir. Mr. Robert had Hans lock him in his cage in the cellar.
Everything secure, Hans?
The cage is strong enough. I put a chain across the door.
But what makes him scream so?
That's because of the corpse in the house. He remembers his dead master.
have my deepest sympathy, Robert.
Thanks, Mr. Wilkes.
It seems unbelievable that it could have happened so quickly. Why, only last week when he was in the city, he seemed perfectly well.
My brother always enjoyed good health, Mr. Wilkes. I was the sickly one, and now a paralytic.
But could medical science do nothing for you?
No, nothing can ever bring power to these lifeless limbs. Don't be alarmed, Mr. Wilkes. He is securely locked in his cage. Would you care to see him?
Why, yes, if it is not too much trouble.
Hans, take Mr. Wilkes down to see Yogi.
Yes, sir.
Shock the monkey.
Shock the monkey.
Shock the monkey.
Shock the monkey.
There was a mate to this one, but it died in one of Dr. Earlson's experiments.
What was the nature of that experiment?
I don't know. But he was the doctor's favorite. Yogi had the run of the house. He knew every nook and corner.
But was there no danger?
Miss Ruth was afraid of him. But that's because he was always jealous of her.
So that is why she went away.
I suppose she had other reasons for wanting to get away from this dreary old place.
And she's coming back here tonight.
If she does, he'll know. They'll never forget their hatred.
Hypersonic wedgie!
Is Miss Ruth's room ready?
Yes, sir.
Light a fire there, it's growing cold. Make her room as cheerful as possible.
Yes, sir. Oh, excuse me, sir. Look down the road and see if you see any signs of Miss Ruth.
Hans has just told me of that animal's hatred for Ruth. They should not be in the same house together.
She's perfectly safe. He can't possibly escape.
Why, with his tremendous strength, anything is possible. Did you not consider that, Robert, when you asked me to read the will in this house?
I was selfish, perhaps. I was thinking of my own condition. But I think she would have come to see her father anyway.
Storm is increasing. I'm afraid I shall have to impose on your hospitality. and spend the night here.
Yes, of course. Mrs. Krug. Mrs. Krug. Mrs. Krug. Prepare a room for Mr. Wilkes.
The guest room is ready, sir.
No, I think Mr. Wilkes would be more comfortable in the other wing of the house, away from our family sorrow.
Oh, anywhere will do, Mrs. Krug.
Did you see anyone on the road, Hans?
Can't see a thing. There's someone coming now.
How do you know?
He always acts like that when there's somebody arriving that he knows.
Could it be Ruth?
I wonder.
County Cruise! County Cruise!
Uncle Robert. Oh, Uncle Robert. Uncle Robert.
Oh, if I were not so helpless. If my shrunken body could lift you up and comfort you. There, my child. Be brave, dear. Be brave.
If I could only have been here and talked with him. Just seen him once again.
Let me take his place in your heart, now that you're more than ever alone.
Oh, I loved him so much. I should never have gone away.
There is nothing to fear, dear. He is securely caged.
Oh, but he frightens me so. Oh, pardon me. Uncle Robert, my fiancé, Dr. Clayton.
Happy to know you, sir. You have my deepest sympathy, Miss Wilkes.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkes. Oh, Ted, my father's attorney, Mr. Wilkes, Dr. Clayton.
Glad to know you. Happy to meet you, sir.
What's that?
That's Yogi.
What's the matter with that man? He must be in misery.
His master is dead.
Where? In there? Well, you told the bank, and I've got to fix on this generator and the spark plugs. Yeah.
Ted, will you wait?
Certainly, dear.
Make yourself comfortable, Doctor. There is little I can say in welcome at a time like this.
I understand, sir, and I extend you my deepest sympathy.
Thank you. You knew my brother? You were acquainted with his work?
Yes. I suppose that was an ape's cry that startled Ruth.
But there is no cause for alarm. I have him secured beyond possible means of escape. Mr. Wilkes inspected him.
Oh, yes, sir. He's in a cage. But he's such a powerful animal. I would not have wanted to be closer.
Dante, I'm afraid. I don't know what it is, but something terrifies me.
Nothing will harm you, dear. Auntie Kruger put you to bed in your own little room, just like when you were a little girl.
Oh, I can't seem to realize. It was all so sudden.
Yes, very sudden. Come along with Tante, dear.
Hello, Hank.
Hello, Miss Ruth. Glad to see you. The luggage, where shall I put it?
Put it in our old room. Your Uncle Robert arranged it that way. I'll fix your things for you.
Thank you, Tante.
Going to tell them. Now that he is dead, it should be known.
Don't be a fool. We may be turned out.
But it is our right. Haven't we been still long enough?
No. Wait until the will is read. We may be rich.
Well now. Talk about a rude awakening. What? Are your panties still in a twist? Do enchanters even wear panties? Nope, I don't want to know. Anyway, it serves you right for falling asleep on the job. Come now. I was hardly sleeping. I was only resting my eyes. Regardless, it appears that the monkey business is well underway. So, we find ourselves resigned to spending the ominous overnight hours in this spooky old house on a dark and stormy night, where once dwelled yet another mad scientist with his homicidal organ grinder sidekick. Just to be clear, you folks out there have Stevie to thank for pounding the prevailing theme into our heads with an oversized clown hammer. It's all done for a purpose, Timmy Numbnuts. Even before they made the wildly successful and iconic King Kong, classic Hollywood seemed to frequently gravitate toward substituting apes for monsters in vintage horror fare. I expect it was an expedient way to inject some measure of brutal menace into the plot lines. Just hire a guy in a gorilla suit, or else utilize zoo animals on set, or by way of stock footage. That's easy for you to say, Mr. Jungle Boogie. Still, the fact remains that there's more to this vintage scare picture than mere monkey shines.
Come on, you can, monkey boy.
Let's see now. We also have a recently expired corpse that's lending its fragrance to this moth-eaten residence. A stiff-backed attorney who appears to have applied a shovel handle, where the bone jangler himself famously likes to suggest spirited insertion. A spooky old housekeeper who makes the Wicked Witch of the West look like a bygone-era pin-up girl. A sinister old uncle with a poor, pitiful me shtick which is already wearing upon my last frayed nerve. And the manservant, who lumbers around the place like the second coming of Caesar, the somnambulist. punctuated by an abundance of thunder and lightning. Ooh, it gives me the willies. Ooh, you mean the movie is already starting to get to you, huh? No, I just had a sudden traumatic flashback to the last time I endured a meal at Stinky Joe's barbecue truck. Whatever you do, don't ever order the Sloppy Joe's. Its namesake, whoever he was, doesn't agree with discerning taste buds or sensitive stomachs. I have yet to entirely banish the horrible aftertaste from my mouth. By the way, do we have any frozen pizza in the kitchen?
No, sorry. I neglected to tell you, but Octavian, Mr. Molto, and Slash made away with the last 3 we had stashed in the freezer when they dropped by last weekend on some kind of impromptu scavenger hunt. They each had one heat-and-serve pizza on their respective lists, and I didn't have the heart to refuse them. Plus, they definitely looked hungry. And of course, Mr. Molto's scythe? That thing looks really, really sharp, you know?
How utterly ironic. The very evening when I was across town, trying to choke down those putrid excuses for Sloppy Joe sandwiches, those 3 unashamed extortionists conspired to show up and eat us out of house and home. Oh well, let it never be underestimated the powerful appeal such fast food delicacies have upon we supernatural beings. Let's get back to the movie, shall we? While I wander into the kitchen and attempt to scare up a savory snack.
Ted, don't go into the village tonight. Stay here.
But the reading of your father's will should be a family matter. I'd better go to the inn.
Please stay. I want you here tonight.
Dear, you're nervous.
Please.
All right, I'll stay. I'll get my things. They're in the car.
Are you leaving, Doctor?
No, Uncle. He's going to see about putting the car up. You'll be more comfortable here than at the inn.
Well, certainly, Doctor. We can consider you one of the family.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, Hans, will you show Dr. Clayton where to put his car? He's staying all night.
All right, Miss Ruth. Thank you, dear. I'll only be a minute.
Tonty, will you prepare the guest room?
Yes, I will, dear.
Exodus! Exodus. Yes, Dr. Clayton. Get the bags out of the car. We're staying here for the night.
We is. Isn't that why them corpse at? You know, Dr. Clayton, I think I'll go for a walk. Go to a movie or play some pee-wee golf.
Nonsense. You can't walk to the village in this storm. It's 11 miles.
That's just a pleasant walk. I'd just love to take off my shoes and play in the raindrops. I'd skip part of the way, too. Did you hear that?
Get the bags out of the car.
Certainly. You take the blonde and I'll take the one in the tavern.
Oh, Ted, did Hans take care of the car?
Yes. He's showing Exodus where he can sleep.
Shall I proceed with the reading of the will, Miss Ruth?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize the...
Oh, that's perfectly all right, Doctor. You may remain. Thank you, but I prefer to go to my room.
Will you show Dr. Clayton to his room, Tonty?
The doctor will be more comfortable in the other wing with Mr. Wilkes.
But Miss Ruth said Dr. Clayton was to occupy the guest room.
Well, of course, Ruth, I was thinking only of the doctor's comfort.
Come, Doctor.
I'll come back when you're through.
Is it necessary for Mrs. Krug to be present?
Why, yes. She is mentioned in the will.
Come with me and I'll show you where you can sleep.
Where's the dead man at?
On the second floor.
Well, I'll sleep in the cellar then.
That's where Yogi is.
You mean that man at her household? Well, you give me an umbrella and I'll go up on the roof.
Come on.
In the name of God, I, Philip Earlton, being of sound mind and memory and not acting under duress, menace, fraud, or undue influence of any person whatever, do make, publish, and declare this my last will and testament in the manner following. That is to say that I bequeath all monies to my credit at the Hudson National Bank in the amount of $50,000, together with all personal property in the safe deposit boxes of the Hudson National Bank, which consist of house and lot and furnishings and personal effects pertaining to house and grounds, to my only daughter, Ruth Earlton, and sole heir. In the event that my sole heir, Ruth, should meet with death in the meantime, then the above I bequeath to my only brother, Robert Earlton.
Uh-oh, spaghetti-o.
In loving memory, I hereby provide that he be sheltered and suitably provided for in our family home until his death. This home to be maintained until such time. To my faithful servant, Emma Krug, I hereby bequeath the sum of $50 monthly to be paid out of my estate. This sum to continue without recourse until her death. I hereby appoint William Wilkes as executor of my will to act without bond. Witness my hand this the 22nd day of April, 1925. Philip Earlton.
I'm very grateful to your father, Miss Rose.
Philip was always thoughtful and just. I'm very happy. My wishes are realized in spending my remaining years here in peace and quiet.
Have they finished?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It ain't fair. It ain't fair, not a penny. And we have been still for so long. And now we get scraps thrown at us by strangers.
It wasn't him. He was a good man.
Now she comes back. Now there's money to be had. And we who have stayed in word get nothing.
Wait. Someday...
I've waited long enough. I'm going to speak.
And if you do, I'll swear that you are mad. Now carry him upstairs.
Are you ready to go upstairs now?
Yes. It's been a trying day. I think I had better retire. You also, Ruth.
I'm coming with you, Uncle. Coming, Ted?
No, if you don't mind, I think I'll stay here and chat with Mr. Wilkes.
All right. Good night, Mr. Wilkes.
Good night, Miss Ruth.
That yoga man sure is mad about something. If he's gonna yodel all night, ain't nobody gonna sleep.
Hans, I will go through my brother's room. I have had my bed moved to the room next his, so we could spend these last few hours together. Go to my room, dear.
Yes, Uncle.
If I only had a daughter now, to be always near me.
I shall always want to be near you, Uncle. You are so much like Daddy that it will keep his memory fresh and dear to me.
You are now a wealthy girl, Ruth, and you must make the most of it. Wealth to youth is golden, but to age it is a milestone.
I love you, dear. Good night.
Good night.
Hypocrite. Dull hypocrite. Why don't you tell her you hate her? Why don't you tell her you want the money more than she does? You're all liars.
A remarkable woman, Mrs. Krug. She's been here for nearly 20 years. Her devotion to the brothers was almost her religion.
And, Hans, is he her son?
Yes. He was a baby when he came here. I believe she comes of a very good family, but she gave up everything to come to America.
They're Germans, aren't they?
Yes, so are the Eltons. I think there's some sort of a distant relationship.
There's a large fortune involved, isn't there?
Considerable. Enough to almost burden a young woman like Ruth.
I believe she understood the provision of the will. The estate is hers unconditionally. Her father intimated as much.
Well, fortunately, there are no other direct heirs. You know, wills are always open to contest, Doctor.
Yes. And a large fortune is always a temptation, Mr. Wilkes.
Yes, Doctor.
Well, shall we retire?
Well, if you don't mind, I think I'll stay here and smoke a cigar.
Good night.
Good night, Doctor.
I'll attend to your car and driver, sir. Thank you, Hans.
Good night, dear. Oh, Miss Ruth wishes to speak to you before you retire.
Thank you.
Good night, Dr. Clayton.
Good night, Mrs. Krug.
Come in, Ted.
Mrs. Krug said you wanted to see me. What is it?
Listen, Ted. I have a premonition that something's going to happen. Something horrible.
No, it's your nerves. What you need is some rest.
Oh, I know it seems foolish, but it's all about me, oppressing me. The house wasn't like this when Daddy was alive.
That's because you've grown unaccustomed to it. It's an old place, isn't it?
It's supposed to belong to smugglers a long time ago. There are tunnels and secret passageways all through the house. Daddy had them all sealed up, because when I was a kid, I was always getting lost in them.
That's swell. That's the first smile I've seen today. Now, it's time little girls like you should be in bed. And I could do with some sleep myself. You're going to have to take something for your nerves, young lady.
All right, Doctor. Should I take an apple a day?
Apples are strictly forbidden in your diet.
Good night, dear.
Good night, sweet.
Lock and bolt every door and window.
Nobody's gonna steal their money. It's not here.
I wasn't thinking of their money.
Aha! The plot thickens. So, Mr. Grape Ape, the old dead dude's last will and testament has been duly disseminated for all those concerned, and spiteful sideways glances are darting in nearly everybody's direction. You don't need to be Mycroft's slightly less brilliant brother to surmise that a slumber party steeped in midnight shadows and the specter of bitter resentment are not the only suspense tropes which hang heavy in the air.
Mr. Holmes, we've admired you in the past, as does every Englishman. Your record as our greatest detective is known throughout the world. Knowing that there is in England such a man as you gives us all a sense of safety and security. God bless you, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you. Now, if you don't mind, I've had rather a strenuous day. I think I'll turn in. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Oh, Watson, the needle.
Mark my words, before this evening is over, we'll all be witnesses to a cold-blooded murder. And here we are, assailed by the worst which Mother Nature has to throw at us, cut off from any hope of seeking help from the authorities in town, and without even a trio of low-rent private eyes to render us any substantial aid in this hour of need.
I'll bet there's a dead body in every room.
That body won't hurt you.
Can't do you any good.
Well, what are we waiting for?
Let's go.
Now, what do you suppose they want detectives for?
I've got an idea. Let's go in and find out.
You're terrific.
It seems as though I spoke too soon, but we scarcely need the likes of those desperately silly Ritz brothers barging in here and stealing the show.
Yeah, it really leaves you wishing that the Marx Brothers had made a scare picture, doesn't it? Chico and Harpo as a pair of down-on-their-luck grave diggers, and Groucho as a wisecracking crypt keeper. At the very least, they could have inserted a bona fide opera house ghost in A Night at the Opera. Such venues are said to be notorious for harboring the long-deceased spirits of seasoned thespians and backstage personnel alike.
Boogie
Boogie, boogie, boogie. Boogie, boogie, boogie.
All of that aside, let's seize this opportunity to take a closer look at the cast in tonight's film. Rex Leese plays Dr. Ted Clayton, the handsome stiff. Vera Reynolds plays Ruth Earlton, the nervous niece. Sheldon Lewis plays Robert Earlton, the creepy uncle. Mischa Auer plays Hans Krug, the brooding manservant. Sidney Bracey plays Herbert Wilkes, the family's attorney. Martha Mattox plays Mrs. Emma Tanty Krug, the housekeeper and Hans's mother. And Willie Best plays Exodus, the jittery chauffeur.
And every one of them have gone on to their respective rewards. Each of those sorry slobs have been pushing up the daisies for untold decades. They all met the hour of their demise, negotiated the veil between the parallel worlds, and joined the realm of phantoms in the mist-laden fields of eternity. Did you ever stop to ponder, while watching some of these old flicks, that you were, in rather an incidental way, visiting the hallowed silver nitrate halls of the long departed? Duh! But thanks for the input, Captain Obvious. By the way, how is it that it's raining over here, where I am, but not over there where you are? Beats me. Maybe it's the spirit of spring's bitter tears over how wicked you are. Hey, don't you just love a good mystery? Humph.
What's the matter? I just heard Ruth scream. Ruth! Open the door, Ruth!
What was that? Someone come to me.
Ruth! Wilkes! What is it? What has happened? Now be calm, Robert, be calm.
It was my niece. I heard a scream. What is it?
Oh, Dad! Dad!
Well, what happened, Ruth? What's the matter?
Oh, it was... Oh.
What is it? What's wrong?
Oh, Dad, take me away. Take me away.
Yes, dear. Now calm yourself and tell me just exactly what happened.
Oh, it was the ape Yogi. When I awakened, his arm was above me and he was clutching at my throat. Oh, it was horrible. Horrible.
Yes, dear. Mrs. Krug.
Oh, Dante.
There, dear. You're just nervous and excited.
Oh, Auntie Krug. I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
She is terrorized. She said that awful brute was in her room.
No. He couldn't possibly escape. Rouse Hand, send him to the cage and tell him to bring Ruth here to me.
Yes. Hans, has that animal been out of its cage?
No, sir. The lock hasn't been touched and everything is the way I left it.
Well, that's a relief. Miss Ruth evidently had a nightmare.
Dr. Clayton? Oh, Dr. Clayton. I bet he's down there giving that yoga man a pill. Miss Yoga, please don't do it this time. Don't bite on this time, Miss Yoga.
Cut me loose, Miss Yoga. I leave here. I ain't never coming back here no more.
What is all this nonsense?
What did you say, Yoga? Doggone, I thought that was Mr. Yoga had hold of me.
Go to your room.
Yeah, that's where I'm going and far away from here. That's all right. You needn't share me. I'm going in now.
He is securely fastened in his cage. I have just come from there.
Did you find anything, Doctor?
Nothing. I've carefully examined your room, dear, and there's no evidence of anyone having been there.
My little girl was having a nightmare. You're wrought up. Your nerves were playing you tricks.
But it was so real. I can't believe I was dreaming.
Dreams always seem real, dear. Now, what could possibly harm you in the room where you have slept since you were a child?
I'm an awful baby. I've disturbed and frightened you all.
You let your doctor give you something to soothe your nerves and have Mrs. Krug put you back to bed.
I'm awfully sorry.
Good night.
Well, I must confess, Robert, it gave me an awful jolt.
Ruth was always emotional, even as a child.
Oh, Ted, I can't. The impression was too vivid. I can't sleep in that room.
Then perhaps I'd better take you to the inn.
There, there, dear. Tanty Krug will stay with you just like she used to do when you were a little girl.
Will you, Tanty?
Of course I will.
Don't worry, dear. I'll be all right with Auntie Krug.
You've had a very severe shock. I'll get something that will help you sleep. Drink this just before you go to bed, after it's dissolved.
Thanks, dear. Perhaps I won't need it.
I'll sit up for a while to make sure you're all right.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night, dear.
Now compose yourself, Robert, and try to get some sleep. You may have another patient, Doctor.
Hello, sir. Enchanter, I need more elixir. The transformation isn't complete. I need more elixir. Maybe Southern sweet style tea, perhaps. Elixir. No, I'm just kidding. I know you're not an alchemist. Although I do believe that you did dabble in some amateur chemistry of a pharmaceutical nature, perhaps back in the 60s. Perhaps. Something to be said. Pay no attention to that wizard behind the curtain, because who knows what he's doing back there. That's not the wizard you're looking for. That's the old enchanter. Old Enchanter number 79 coming down the tracks. His old wand is smoking up, rolling down there. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm on the train kick. Whew, hoboing. Last episode, it took a toll on my sanity. Not that that would take very much. I'm a little frazzled. Damn it. Shut up, Stan. He's not a wizard. Quit saying wizard. You're confusing me. Enchanter. Not to be confused with the N-word. Don't say it. Necromancer. What'd you think I was going to say? Nimrod? No. The N-word. Necromancer. God, dude. I will claw your face. We're on, dude. So, magic, wizardry, enchantment. Shut up! It's enchantment. He is enchanting. He has a wonderful singing voice and he's very funny. Shut up. Shocker! Tim the Enchanter. Not to be confused with Gary the Enchanter. He does dry cleaning. He can get stains out of all kinds of things. Stains you would never dream of. He does a lot of work in the adult film industry. Cleaning the clothing and the sofas and whatnot. He's a wizard in his own right. Isn't that right, Tim? But we never speak of Gary. Gary the Enchanter. I'm an old cracked up egg. Cracking up a hard-boiled egg. What's that smell? That's a hard-boiled egg. It made my eyes burn. Hard-boiled egg. Okay, we're going on forever, so I see ya. Sorry I'm trying to do it. Shocker. Where'd your monster? Wizard, enchanter.
You go to bed, Tonty. I'm going to sit up a while.
You should have rest, Ruth.
Oh, I couldn't go to sleep right now. I'm going to read a while.
Mr. Wilkes, just where were you when Ruth screamed?
Why, I was here, smoking my cigar. I must have dozed off. When I heard the scream, I rushed upstairs immediately.
And you stopped by Robert's room?
Why, yes. Her scream had awakened him also.
Hans was at the foot of the stairs, and he went to the cellar with you.
Yes. The ape was in his cage, and the chain was securely fastened. But I'm convinced that Ruth was dreaming.
Ruth tells me this is quite an old house.
Yes, it is.
It has a lot of secret passageways in it. You know anything about them?
No, but Hans might know.
Hans. I'd like to talk to him.
Well, his room is next to the kitchen. I'll go and get him. Hans! Hans!
Yes, sir?
Dr. Clayton wishes to speak to you.
You wanted to talk to me? Yes, Hans. I want to ask you some questions. If Yogi should escape from his cage, Miss Ruth would be in great danger.
Well, you can't get out, sir. I locked the cage myself.
Mm-hmm. Are there any tunnels near his cage that he might crawl through?
Well, they've all been locked long ago.
Has Yogi ever escaped from his cage?
Well, sometimes when I used to lock him up for the night, he'd suddenly appear in the doctor's or Mr. Roberts' room. They'd only laugh and say you could pick the lock. That's why I put the chain on the door.
That's all, Hans. You may go.
Very well.
Are you sure that Yogi was locked in his cage?
I'm positive. He'd have to be released by human hands.
Yet Ruth is not the type of hysterical woman that's given to nightmares.
I think you're alarming yourself unnecessarily, Doctor.
I wonder. I still can't believe she was dreaming.
strange boy, Hans. He often plays until late in the night.
You say Hans was in the cellar? Why hadn't he gone to bed?
Well, Hans's room is almost over Yogi's cage. He told me, before he heard the scream, that he heard some sort of slight shuffling noise coming from the cellar, and he went down there to investigate.
How long has Uncle Robert been an invalid?
Robert? Why, surely, Doctor, you can't suspect Robert. Why, Robert hasn't walked in over a year.
Nevertheless, I'm worried. I'd like to talk to Robert. Would you care to come along?
Why, certainly.
Guess who?
Tonty Krug. Tonty! Oh.
He's sleeping.
Perhaps we'd better not disturb him until the morning, Doctor.
She's been strangled to death.
Ruth.
And so, much like snuffing out a candle flame, Tonty Krug is no more. See there? What did I tell you? Murder, most foul and insidious. You know, it may not be immediately apparent to look at me, since I do tend to conceal my age rather well. But I've actually been around the block a time or two. I've seen enough of life, and enough of these kinds of films, to heed the implicit warning that it simply isn't worth risking life and limb to attend one of these oh-so-treacherous reading of the will soirees. Oh yeah? Geez, as I recall, that wasn't the tune you were singing back in the late 1990s, when your long-forgotten relation, Uncle Angus Smuthound, passed away, and presumably left his sizable smut empire fortune to one of two distant nephews, either you or Gary. Gary the Enchanter. We do not speak that name, not in my presence, as you know all too well. You, of all people, should know the dangers of reopening old wounds. Okay, point taken. Just the same, I still feel as though it might be a healthy thing to perhaps think about exorcising the remnants of that bad experience from your heart. After all, Gary is your only surviving relative,
And the two of you really ought to consider burying the old hatchet while the opportunity is still there to do so.
Oh, I would dearly like to bury the old hatchet, all right. And that's the third time you've used his name, when you damn well know better. I warn you, do not push me too far, or you will live to regret it.
Hey, it's easy for you to sit there in your own funk and threaten me. What else is new, huh? Just remember, though, I'm still in possession of your wand from before. Listen, our bitter personal differences aside, I'm just trying to help ease you into a more positive place, for your own good, if not for your shared circumstance as estranged blood relatives and avid practitioners of the dark magical arts. It would do you both good to find whatever common ground that may exist, and maybe put an end to your long-standing family feud.
As you wish. You've been cautioned. So, let it be on your own pointed head. Also, what you propose is simply an impossibility. It's painfully obvious to everybody that he used his vastly inferior enchanter powers to alter Uncle Angus's will in his favor. All of the evidence points to that having been the case. Therefore, I shall never, never, never forgive that fiendish betrayal. Not in this lifetime or the next.
Look at it this way. If you had received the benefit of your Uncle Angus's vast fortune, all you likely would have done was to have blown it on courting bimbos and wagering long shots at the track. As many springs and summers as you've seen through the years, Tim, you'd think that by now you would have realized that there's so much more to this life than the aimless pursuit of superficial gratification.
So you say, what do you know of such things? Give me superficial gratification every time, thank you. Run the gamut before time runs out and it's too late. And in the immortal words of Hank Bukowski, there are worse things than being alone. But it often takes decades to realize this. And most often, when you do, it's too late. And there's nothing worse than too late.
Wow! Thanks so much for that traumatizing Skid Row laureate gem. Way to send our more impressionable viewers running, in a panic, to self-destructively wield their grandfather's straight razors. Geez, now we're going to have to run a hastily prepared disclaimer and post the number for the National Crisis Hotline prior to the end of the show. Swift move, Dilbert.
Always more than pleased to infuse a little post-beat era counterculture into the stream and flow of things. Even if it's not fully appreciated by the simpletons in the Ghoul Beach peanut gallery.
How about sending the viewers back to the conclusion of our feature, while I seek to facilitate a little damage control here?
As you wish. Thankfully, it's not too late for us to rejoin the spine-tingling climax of tonight's film.
It was a shock. She'll be all right in a minute.
You were right, Doctor. There must be a secret entrance to this room.
Someone has made a second desperate attempt on Ruth's life. Mrs. Krug was not the intended victim. done this?
Let's see. Robert was in his room.
Yes, we know where Hans was. Could there possibly be a secret passage to the ape's cage?
I don't think it was the ape. His animal instinct would have told him it was not Ruth.
Possibly. But what motive could anybody have for wanting to murder Ruth?
Robert is the only one who would profit by it.
Yes, and we know he was in his bed ourselves. Besides, he's a hopeless paralytic.
Dad! Dad!
You're all right now, dear. Tell me what happened.
She had gone to bed. I had fallen asleep reading. When I came back to bed, she was lying there with those horrible marks on her throat.
Well, didn't you hear anything?
I didn't hear or see anything. Oh, Dad, take me away. That's Uncle Robert's bell.
I'll go to him.
Wait. Don't tell him. The shock would kill him.
All right. I won't tell him a thing.
I thought I heard something. Has anything happened?
No. I was about to retire when I heard your bell. Is there anything I can do for you?
Nothing, thank you.
Well, you seem disturbed. Are you ill?
This has been a very severe ordeal for me, Doctor. Ruth!
Are you all right, Uncle Robert?
Yes, dear. Come in. Something disturbed me, and I rang for Mrs. Krug. The doctor answered.
Your uncle is exhausted. I'll get him a sedative.
No, thank you. Come here, Ruth. I thought I heard something, and I was a bit worried about your safety.
No, I'm all right, dear.
Doctor, did you learn anything?
Yes. Robert did not know of Mrs. Krug's death. I was taking his pulse when Ruth entered the room unexpectedly, and it stopped completely for several beats.
There can be no possible connection. Why, the man is a helpless paralytic.
I'm not so sure. I want to find that out for myself. Would you be so kind as to take Ruth downstairs?
Certainly.
Thank you.
It's late, dear. You'd better try and get some rest.
And you'd better go to bed, too, Ruth. I'll take care of your uncle.
All right, Ted. Good night.
Good night, dear.
Ruth has told me of your case. I'm very interested.
Medical science can't help me, Doctor.
Nevertheless, if you would permit me, I should like to make an examination.
Very well. See for yourself.
Mom.
Hey, Frankenstein!
You fool. You let the girl escape. You have failed again.
It was her bed. I was sure it was the girl. Instead, it was my mother I killed. Do you understand, my mother?
Emma? Dead?
You put the idea in my head because you wanted the money. You told me when the girl was out of the way, you would acknowledge me as your son. And we'd both be rich.
They'll hear you. Shut your vile mouth.
Why didn't you tell him I was your son? And now Mother is dead. And it's all your fault, you shrunken devil. Yours and the girl's. And I'm gonna kill you both.
Hands! Hands! Hands!
As I live and breathe, I thought that Stevie would never take a restroom break. Owing to the unfortunate fact that he has absconded with my wand, I thought that I would avail myself of this opportunity to spike his herbal tea with a wee bit of pickled Amazonian toadswort. A fitting additive, if you ask me. What can I say? I'm a spiteful old enchanter. It's simply my way of getting over on that hopelessly obnoxious simp. Add to that the curious fact that it has a tendency to send him ever so slightly around the bend. Hey, bonus. So, stay tuned for the wicked fun.
I was wrong, Mr. Wilkes. It's utterly impossible for Robert to ever walk again.
Why, Ted, what do you mean?
Ruth, you must realize that the attack made on Mrs. Krug was obviously meant for you.
But who would want to harm me?
There is only one possible solution. The ape.
Yogi. Oh, Ted, if he's loose, he will kill me. Oh.
Mr. Wilkes, will you see if Yogi's in his cage, please?
Why, yes, yes.
Oh, Ted, then it was Yogi's arm that I saw. I wasn't dreaming.
I'm not sure yet, dear.
Oh, Ted, take me away.
Here. Have you got a revolver in your car?
No, sir, I got it right here. So if Yogi mess around with me, I might blow a hole right through his overcoat.
Good. Come along with your revolver.
No, sir, not me.
Sure. Give me that gun.
I just shot myself.
There's gonna be another dead one.
The ape is securely fastened in his cage.
Then there's someone else in this house.
Ted, what are we going to do?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is get you out of here immediately. Exodus?
Yes.
Bring the car around front as quickly as possible.
It can't be too quick for me, boss.
Don't you worry, dear.
Dr. Clayton! Dr. Clayton!
Dr. Clayton. What is it, Hans?
Something terrible happened to Mr. Robert.
Ted, go to him. I'm all right with Hans. Go.
Come on, Wilkes.
Hans, what is it?
I surprise him like this all through the picture.
Hans. Hans!
Is he dead, Doctor?
No, he's still breathing.
The same hand that murdered Mrs. Krug.
But I think we got a chance this time. I think he'll be able to talk.
Ruth.
It's all right now. Tell us what happened.
Take Ruth away.
Ruth's safe? Who was it?
I am the guilty one. I forced him to do it.
Him? Who do you mean?
He is my son. Hans.
Hans! Ruth! Doctor!
She's all right.
Excuse me, boss. What are they doing with one of them things around the house?
Well, Dr. Elton was an exponent of the Darwinian theory.
Huh?
He believed that they were our ancestors.
You mean that he's related to me?
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. I had a grandpappy that looked something like him, but he wasn't as active.
Yikes! And I thought I was a tactless old sod. What a note for this creaky old whodunit to end on.
Yes, that era of classic movies produced its share of problematic material. Such films are of a particular time and place, and I don't believe that they should be so casually deep-sixed just because of a few poorly conceived lines here and there. But to each their own, I say. Hey, to paraphrase the dude, yeah, well, you know, that's just like my opinion, man.
Darkness washed over the dude, darker than a black steer's tuchus on a moonless prairie night. There was no bottom.
What? Hell's bells! Now you've got me quoting Big Lebowski's scripture. At any rate, for my part, after that stale little genre offering, I'm left with the overwhelming sense of its excessively theatrical staginess. It's as if the production couldn't make up its mind whether it was a low-rent play or a low-rent film. Well, of course, that owes a lot to the acting styles of the time. Keep in mind, the vast majority of actors during those years were recruited from the legitimate theater. When Hollywood made the changeover from silent cinema to talkies, it became imperative to find actors who could speak with a certain degree of clarity and authority. So yeah, that accounts for the exaggerated qualities in mannerisms, postures, and line deliveries of the actors involved. Sounds like a lot of bloody weak rationalizations. Why try to put a better face on it? Granted, to some viewers, I may be coming off as just a little bit harsh. However, in the fabled words of legendary horror host Seymour, I call them as I see them. Regardless, we've survived the worst of things. And yes, by all accounts, there's something to be said for having a strong stomach. Oh, that reminds me. You know, I felt a little bad about the whole frozen pizza snafu earlier in the show. So anyway, well, I took the initiative and ordered up a little something for you from a local eatery. Oh, really? My goodness gracious. Knock me over with a raven's feather. Call it a peace offering. All things being equal, Tim, despite our seemingly frequent clashes and disagreements, I just wanted you to know that I really do appreciate what you regularly bring to the show. That's awfully sporting of you, old boy. After all, like any self-respecting army of darkness, we horror hosts typically travel on our stomachs. To say nothing of the sad fact that our craft services table here in the dingy old production space is typically lacking in variety and appeal. So yes, I most certainly thank you for your very kind gesture. Think nothing of it. Hey, I was just sorry to have missed out on witnessing Tim's trying to choke down Stinky Joe's Fukushima-tinged serial killer victim's cuisine a few days ago. Just between us, I have the feeling that this could be the coup de grace of all food poisoning comeuppances. Why is it green? Oh, that's just their patented secret sauce. And why does it glow? Oh, the delivery guy, he was delayed, so I warmed it up in the microwave. I see. Looks a bit suspicious to me. I believe that I have Stinky Joe's toxic supper menu to thank for this. And if the putrid aroma is any indication, Joe's source of
principal ingredients hasn't seen any significant improvement. Beyond that, this sleazy snack appears to be ever so slightly radioactive. So Stevie, perhaps I'll let these jittery molecules settle down a bit before I dig in. But I appreciate the thought, such as it is. Now, if I could perhaps have my wand back.
Don't push it, buddy. As Hannibal Lecter is so fond of saying, all good things to those who wait.
Right. As long as I'm not acting here as Jodie Foster to your Anthony Hopkins.
I've been in this situation with him, on and off, for untold years, and I know that they will never ever let me out while I'm alive. What I want is a view. I want to see a tree, or even water. I want to be in a horror host's rest home, far away from the insufferable enchanter's continual nonsense.
Earth to Stevie, ground control to Major Tom, and the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Do you read NASA Central?
I'm offering you a psychological profile of Stinky Joe, based on the case evidence. I'll help you catch him, Clarice.
Well, my onerous onlookers, it appears that Stevie has gone bye-bye. Meanwhile, let's take this opportunity to show our Horror Host tribute segment, while I seek to do a little damage control with my flounderingly delusional showrunner. Yes, in the case of the original Svengoolie, audiences of that era could scarcely have hoped for a more original or more agile-witted host. Wouldn't you agree, Polly? Regardless, it does my typically cynical heart good to salute such a splendid old pro as that. And in other developments closer to home, I regret to inform you that my resident sidekick, Stevie, has flipped his lid, gone around the bend, and otherwise come down with an acute case of distemper. My, I might even have to have the poor fellow committed for psychiatric evaluation.
Oh, it's nothing so serious as that. Why must you insist upon being such a mendacious scoundrel? I've just been burning the candle at both ends a little too often lately. I just need to get a little rest. I just need a wee tiny respite from everything. After that, I'll be as right as rain.
That's very insightful of you, Stevie. Truth to tell, I believe that's precisely what you are in need of. A little cooling off period. And with grateful thanks to my spiderific friend, Iris, I believe that I can help you out with that. Suck it to him, baby. And you can start by giving him a taste of his own torrential downpour medicine.
Oh, brother. I guess that'll teach me to stay well-stocked in Western Exterminator strength bug spray. All right, fine. You win this round, both of you. But I won't soon forget this. Now, I most certainly won't. Meanwhile, I reiterate what I said earlier in the show. Enchanter, you're a poor creature. A poor creature. And your little arachnid friend, too.
Oh, you're going to need more than one lesson. And you're going to get more than one lesson. So then, take all of that with you into your dreams tonight, and rest easy in the knowledge that your slumber will give way to a brand new day. And by all the laws of equity and fair play, what goes around comes around.
Ready when you are, Sergeant Pembry.
Hypersonic wedgie!
It's all fun and games until Gary the Enchanter shows up. That's right. You better look out. Timothy, your brother's coming, and I'm kicking your ass. You were always Mom and Dad's favorite. Yeah, that's why I hate you. Yeah. Come and get you, boy.